Hello, and welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering designers and contractors in the outdoor living space.
Through this show, we hope to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is trying to grow their company but might not have all the tools and processes to do so.
On Outer Spaces, we are passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. My name is Joshua Gillow.
And I'm Dwayne Drawn.
Through our 40 years of combined dirt under the nails experience, we look forward to sharing tips, strategies, and other contractor success stories here on the Outer Spaces podcast.
Without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, with a special guest on today. His name is Dane Sanders. I'm going to hand the mic off to him.
Thanks, Joshua. Thanks for having me. It's been a little bit, and I'm so pleased to be in this conversation, especially given the offline things that we've been chatting about, hopefully bringing those on to the conversation here for your listeners. But it's funny, I actually have asked Joshua if I can introduce myself, and that's kind of an odd thing to say for a guest on a podcast. I recognize that, but it's because I want to give some context. So for those who have never heard my name, and there's lots of you, my name is Dane Sanders. I did my undergraduate degree in marketing, and this is relevant to our conversation. At the end of my marketing degree, I felt like I had learned how to manipulate people to buy things they didn't want or need, and I felt really gross about it. So I did the next logical thing, and I went to grad school and studied philosophy, and the exact opposite of marketing. And I studied Aristotelian virtue ethics in particular. And if you have any friends who've gone on to study Aristotelian virtue ethics in grad school, you know that they are either A, unemployed, or B, they became teachers. And I became a teacher, and thankfully, and this is about 20 years ago now, but I really got interested in this notion of what is the good life and how do you actually live in that good life? What kind of capacities do you need to create in your life to experience that existence? And not only for myself, but for those I'm in life with, my wife and my kids, and how do I both model things and encourage things and live into a great life? Well, it was about 20 years ago now that I was teaching at this liberal arts college up in Santa Barbara called Westmont College, and I ran into two individuals in that season of my life. The first was a guy named Seth Godin, and a lot of your listeners would know who Seth is. He's an extraordinary human. I love his books. I like him even better. And as just a professional colleague, and then someone who's gotten to know more personally over the years, he's just invested in me in ways that have been profound. So much so that I actually like marketing now. I think marketing is actually an amazing thing when it's done well, when it's done ethically. And the second person I met back in that day was a guy named Donald Miller. And Don, who Joshua and I kind of share a relationship with, is someone who he got his start writing New York Times bestselling memoirs, and those books were extraordinary. But in more recent years, one of his memoirs was extraordinarily successful, a book called Blue Like Jazz, and they were making a movie out of it. And they had to create the screenplay from the book he wrote. And the screenwriters were actually like, "Hey, Don, your life isn't very interesting." And he was like, "What do you mean? I have a bestseller." And they're like, "Yeah, you're a good writer, but your life, the thing we're going to make the movie about, not so much. We need to make a story out of your life." And he was like, "Well, what does that mean?" And he started looking at how story works, all the great stories that have ever been told. And he realized two profound lightning in a bottle ideas. The first one was, you and I and everyone listening have a chance, if they're careful enough, to get to know how the greatest stories that have ever been lived have happened, to actually take that exact framework and live into that life, to be what Joseph Campbell talked, a hero on a mission, to actually be after a bigger existence. Viktor Frankl's talked about these. Like, there's so many great thinkers, and I'm sure we'll might get into these dialogues, because actually it's relevance in business. Because the second insight Don had was, not only can you create an epic story and live into it yourself as an individual, you can actually position your organization, have a brand story that can do the same thing for your customers, where you can actually position in the marketplace in such a way that you will attract clients as opposed to have to chase clients. You'll attract employees as opposed to have to chase employees. The people who come and hang, if you give them a story that's really interesting that they want to be a part of, well, guess what? They'll be more engaged. They'll stick around longer, and you'll become famous in your world and become a talent magnet. So there's all of these ancillary benefits to story as it relates to companies, as it relates to individuals. And those two individuals really kind of set the trajectory for my life right up until today.
I love that. I love that, dude. And, for listeners out there, I met Dane when I hired a story brand coach to come out and teach us how to story brand our business master plan. And, he came out, he flew in from California, and we spent a couple of days together working on, narratives and ideas and how we solve problems. And a lot of my current thinking comes from a lot of the learning during that time. So Dane, it was a powerful time for us to spend together with the team. And I've helped others through that conversation because of what you taught me and what Donald Miller's books taught me as well. So that's why I wanted to have you on a podcast so you could share with the listeners a lot of the gems, the things that you learned through the process of working with Donald and even Seth as well. And now you have your, tell me your dreams going on. So I just love to kind of open you up and focus not just around the marketing side of things, but more around company culture and finding and hiring and holding A+ players. Because I know that's a big topic right now with companies that are trying to scale during this crazy time. And I know some are doing really, really well. You can see the ones that are holding hundreds of employees and others who struggle to get 1 or 2 employees. So I'd love to unlock some of the little jewels that and what you teach and what you do when you help people to kind of have a conversation around that today. How does that sound?
That sounds great. And it's a great tee up, because when I think about, guys like Seth and Don, what kind of the foundation for me that they set formationally, and if we're honest, like Aristotle, like these aren't the first guys to think about these ideas, but they're in a long list of practitioners who have learned a skill, and not only for themselves and had great success in their own organizations, but have been generous enough to share those ideas with others. And I'm one of the benefactors of that. And right up until today, where what I do is I run a company called Tell Me Your Dreams, which is kind of an odd name for a company, and I'll explain that in a second. But it really comes down to the conversation I'm in almost every day with entrepreneurs. And it's like this. If I ask any entrepreneur who's listening to this podcast, what do you want to do? They'll 100% say, I want to grow my business. Everyone wants to grow their business. I recognize that. But the ones that I love, the ones that get me excited, they don't just want to have a healthy bottom line. They actually want to build a great company. But that's a problem. And the problem is significant, because wouldn't you expect that if you had a great company that had, was successful, had a lot of revenue, maybe even profit, that those companies would also have people who were making those things possible, the employees, that they would be thriving. They wouldn't just be getting by. They would actually love their jobs. But even with all of the great successful companies that have dollars, all the data is pointing to the fact that there just aren't that many great companies right now. Half the population are looking for other jobs, the Great Resignation. Something like 4 out of 5 employees feel misunderstood and undervalued in the workplace. And 2 out of 3 are disengaged at work, meaning they have way more capacity, but they just don't offer it up. And when you think of all that, we can forgive moments because of things like COVID and all the things that people went through. But the truth is, there were organizations even under significant duress that didn't have those data points, that actually had people who were thriving. And at Tell Me Your Dreams, what we do is we spent the last almost 3 years now just researching what are the key ingredients to teams having employees that just are breaking down the door in the morning and give their all and just are so excited to be there. And we've discovered some really key elements that, first of all, match a lot of the things that I learned from the folks I mentioned earlier, and that I am so grateful to be practicing in my own life, which we'll talk about. One is individual well-being. Are your people on their own, distinct from their work, in their own lives? Are they self-governing? Are they able to navigate life in a way that they have some sense of agency and autonomy in their life? So if you have employees that are like that individually, that's a good sign that you're on the road to a super healthy culture. Second, let's say you have a bunch of healthy individuals, but they're not on the same team. They're just jumping around on their own. And the limit of what they can pull off is the limit of any one of those talents. But if they all would jump at the same time, if they all would voluntarily work as a single unit, well, then they can do extraordinarily more than any one person could. So how do you actually get there? And we can chat about that if you'd like. And then the third one, which is the one that I'm most interested in, is motivation. Is how do you actually set an environment where people want to do the thing? Where it's not like a have to, it's a get to. And what we've discovered is that when you invite dreams, you discover drive. You discover an organic, non-coerced mechanism for people to actually get after it. And it makes sense, right? Like most organizations are set up so that we give employees money and employees give us their time and talent. And that's the exchange. But what we don't have in that transaction is their heart. What we have is a capacity. And something magical happens when an organization, and by the way, people don't have to hire us to do this. They can do this on their own. But when people find a way to not just beg the employees with money and foosball tables and free lunches to please, please, please care about the mission, our dreams as a company. When a company's leadership actually creates space to care about the dreams of the employees just as much, magic happens. The world transforms because they might not even have their dream job, but they absolutely have a job that helps them achieve their dreams. When that's internalized, people do get up in the morning with a sense of purpose and interest, and they want to get after it. And what most organizations fail to miss is they think that if it doesn't help them get what they want, then they don't want to participate. And I think it's radically short-sighted when they do that.
Totally agree, man. And, we're on the same page with that. It's probably why we meshed so well a couple of years ago is, I've always believed that a good business is a vehicle to get everyone to their dreams faster. Right. It's a conduit. It's a way to do that. But if it's the old style of king on top and all the peasants work for him or her, then nobody wants to be in that kind of transaction. As you mentioned, they're looking for someone to help them transform their life and chase those dreams and have the work be part of that. That's when you lock into a team that's going to go through hell with you, and you're going to need to lead them. They're going to need leadership. But, to your point of having that focus and thinking about how can we do that? How can we make their dreams come true? So that's actually a question I'm going to spin over to you, Dane. So, all right, so I'm a business owner. I love this idea. I love the idea of helping others, achieve their dreams. How do I start? What do I do? Like, how do I even begin to think about this?
Yeah. This question, I'm going to answer it very directly, and I don't want to offend anybody because it's such a simple starting point. But I think sometimes when we have like minimally viable starting points, we actually might do something with it. So that's the purpose behind it. But the quickest answer to that is ask your employees what they want.
Yeah.
What and actually be curious about their aspirations. There's an amazing story. There's a company out in Minneapolis. There's a book written about it actually called The Dream Manager. But it's a janitorial services company. And in this, like nobody when they were kids said, I can't wait to grow up and be a janitor. Nobody said that, right? And as a result, the industry standard, not just this one company, but the industry standard for turnover that this company actually had was 400%. So every position turned 4 times a year. And they realized that's expensive. That's a hard way to go. Yeah. So what they did was they went ahead and created this idea of a dream manager where this person's whole job was to get curious about what the employees' dreams were and see if there's anything the company could do about it. And what they found out was, first of all, minimally viable dreams are not that expensive and not that complicated. Like people were saying things like, I would dream of getting home, not exhausted, and being there for my kids to help them with homework. That's my dream. Wow. So they went, well, what if we got a van and drove you home so you didn't have to do public transport? And they did that. And they a series of those kinds of little things. And all of a sudden, in this hyper blue collar, not like these weren't massive investments because the company was working at scale, but they were with a very little investment. They dropped practically turnover from 400% to 100%.
Wow.
Just by creating space and asking the question, what do you want? And then getting creative and saying, how can we help? Now, that's one approach. But there's a lot of approaches. At TMYD, what we do is we actually, companies will bring us in. What I do is me and my business partner, Tommy's a therapist, and he is our chief mental health officer, because what we have this interest in is smuggling proactive mental health into the workplace without it being therapy. So we do it through dreams. And the way we do it is we hire mental health professionals. So we're doing this work responsibly. They don't do therapy with employees, but they're trained with a ton of background. And we go in and we hang everything on this thing called Dream Day. So picture like a company pep rally where the only purpose of the pep rally is to celebrate the aspirations of the employees. And at the very first pep rally, we explain how it all works, and people sign up and they start their journey. And for the first three or 4 months, there's a cohort of people going through this process of meeting one-on-one twice a month with our dream guides. And their job is to just walk them through a series of exercises to help them identify what is a dream they want to go after. And then they come back to Dream Day. And at the next Dream Day, they're actually declaring their dream while another group is starting their journey. And the next day, our next Dream Day, the group that started is achieving their dream. They're getting in a totally different model of coaching that's around performance and having a hard job, but also wanting to get after their dream simultaneously and creating space and routines and habits to make all that happen. So the next Dream Day, there's a group who are starting from the very beginning. There's a group who's declaring their dream, and there's a group who are declaring that their dreams are achieved. And what it turns into is this culture like epicenter where people have this like rich internalized experience of not only do the bosses care about this because they're paying for it, but not only do I care about it because this is my dream, but I have a group of colleagues who actually are cheering for me, are actually like wanting me to get what I dream of having. And here's the biggest kicker, Joshua. They are able to tell themselves a story about themselves that just wasn't true before. They like we have had there are people working for companies who are of leaders who are listening to this podcast right now who have they're saddled with student debt, and they actually believe they will never get out of student debt. There's people who have a dream car they'd love to have someday. There's people who want to buy their first home. There's people who want to get in shape and get someone to like them. Sure. There's so many different dreams that people have, and they just don't think it's possible. And then they go through a process like this, and all of a sudden they pay off their student loans. They buy their first house. And who do they credit? They credit, first of all, themselves because they did it, which they should. But second, they go, I work at a place that actually helped me get in that position. Yeah. Like, do you think they might show up to work a little different? Do you think they might
For
they
sure.
won't be there forever, but do you think they might like stick around a little longer than they would have if they didn't get their dream achieved there? And do you think they're going to tell their friends about it? And that might have in turn some help in actually creating a space where people want to go and, oh my gosh, could I please get a job here? Yes. That's the kind of thing we're going for. There's some fun lore of back in the day before the tragedy of Tony Hsieh passing at Zappos. It was harder to get a job at Zappos than it was to get in Harvard. And because of the efforts that they did, the story they built, like this idea that I would get to work there. And one of the funniest things they do is in the heyday of their hiring, if you got hired at Zappos, the first thing they would do is they would meet with you with $1,000 cash. And they would say, we'd like to give you this leave bonus. Don't take the job, say no to the job. Here's $1,000 and we'll just call it a day. And anyone who took the money, Zappos won because they saved so much money from turnover. The employee won because they're like, I got $1,000 and I left. But the ones who stayed, they actually became believers in the place. So it's initiatives like this that I think it takes some creativity, it takes some thinking. takes some guts to believe and play a bigger game than most companies do. But when they do, they actually give themselves a chance of becoming a great company, not just one that they benefit from.
I love that story with Tony. That's such an amazing thing. And yeah, like you pay your people, just come in, here's money, leave. And if you don't, maybe you want to stick around for a little bit, and then we'll offer it to you again too, right? Talk about having people that'll stick around. That's a huge piece. Now, it's so powerful though when you work from the dream side, and I love that you're doing that, Dane, because it's so powerful and so often missed, in the old work thing. Figuring you're going to be working from 18 to 65, and then hopefully retire at some point and probably jump in a box, right? So why not have some fun in between that and have work with a group that actually wants the same things you do? And we instituted here a master plan. I read a book. It was called Big Five for Life. It's an obscure book, but it goes through and it says that you should, plan out your PFE, your purpose for existence, like your basic mission statement, your personal mission statement. And then you pick 5 things that you'd consider that as long as you get these done within your lifetime, that you'd consider it to be successful, right? So, and what we do is we share these with our group, our team. So I've written mine out, and the others have as well. And each year we go through them and say, okay, is everything good? Has anything adjusted? Anything changed? And then when we're looking to do things as a team, I look and I'm like, okay, everybody likes to stay outdoors. Let's go for a hike. Somebody wants to pay off their student loan, right? Let's figure out how to make that happen faster. This one wants to travel more with family. Let's make sure we can figure out how to make that happen. And the next thing you know, it's like, everyone just loves coming to work and most days, right? But everybody gives 100% because this machine becomes a speed machine, if you will. It catapults them closer to it. And I love when we can be part of those kind of conversations because it's so powerful.
And Joshua, that is so powerful. And it's interesting too. Like, first of all, that book sounds incredible. Second, that you would care enough about your employees. You're out carrying the competition. It's one of the reasons why you're winning right now. And 3 rather, it matches the science. Like if you look at all of the research done around motivators, extrinsic motivation versus intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivators are things like, I get to go to a cocktail party and say I make this much money, or I'm this good looking, or I'm in this position on the status ladder and I'm giving cues to tell you that I'm awesome. Those things are what most humans pursue, and they think that's going to give them the good life.
Yep.
And when they go for those things and they get them, they discover how it didn't deliver. It never delivers. It's insatiable, actually, because you're this on the ladder, but I could be this. You're this much money, I could be that. And there's always a sense of like, I'm never actually at peace. But the folks who go for intrinsic motivators, things like mastery, things like understanding that the world is full of suffering and it's difficult, and actually showing up in difficulty is where we create meaning in our life. And investing in people, in a community of people who love you and you love them, those intrinsic motivators, they actually deliver while you're getting them. Even when you don't have them, they still deliver on the road to getting them. And, Viktor Frankl talked about this. If we don't have a meaningful story to tell ourselves about suffering, like going to work when it's really hard, but wanting to do the work, especially when it's hard, that's when it's magical. Like you and I were talking offline about our workout programs this morning, and, whether it's a workout thing or doing goofy things like getting into a cold plunge or doing, holding our breath or, whatever people are into, there's always those days where you just don't want to do it. And I loved how you put it. You were like, yeah, but feelings are kind of overrated. How I feel about doing it versus did I do it or not are so different. And it's because you have learned how to be that kind of person. And I think that's what most people crave. They want the benefit of being that person without the work of doing it. But ironically, the work of doing it is the benefit. That's actually where the gold is. But
100%. We
sound so weird when we talk like this because it's uncommon for people to live freed up like that.
It's so true. And Tony Robbins says it best, it's not the goal that we're after. It's the journey along the way. That's how we have to become the person that can achieve the different goals that we're after. And it's in the achievement and the becoming that you find yourself and you discover things about yourself. And that's where the fuel comes from. It's not the freaking a goal. I mean, I've run a marathon already, and the marathon, I'm done with the marathon, but it was all the preparation, the mind shit that I had to get rid of to get to that point, to not stop running when when everything in my body told me to stop. Or even this morning, like we were talking offline, where every cell in my body didn't want to go for a run, didn't want to go for the cold shower, didn't want to do pull-ups, didn't want to do the meditation, didn't want it at all.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't care if I want it. This is what's done. And there's no questioning in that. And out I went, and I'm feeling much better now because of it, but I cannot let my mind beat me, because it will not work.
And those are the best days, right? When you can overcome that. Like, some people give in. I give in. There's days where you just don't get it done. But there's, when you actually find a way, it's actually the crappy days when you didn't feel like doing it and you get it done. Talk about a lift. Talk about an insta sense of like, I've already won the day. Yep. I won the day before I even start. And like, there's this new friend of mine, I had a chance to have him on my podcast, and it was a guy named Jerzy Gregorek. And Jerzy, he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast too, so that's one of the reasons why he's a well-known guy. But he was also a champion Olympic weightlifter, and he coached UCLA's team, and he's in his 70s now, just a sage guy. He's an artist, and he's still unbelievably fit. And we were talking, and he has this famous line that just really sums up this dynamic. And it's easy choices, hard life. Mm-hmm. Hard choices, easy life. And that as a mantra, I think is so valuable. Like, so let's say I'm a listener right now and I'm running a company, and I really want to employ new people. Well, you have a couple choices: easy choices or hard choices. And the hard choices might seem like, oh man, that takes too much time, building a culture, having values that we actually hold, writing things down that people want to do and coming back to that and having that inform what you're going to go do with a team event. Like, those are hard choices. But what happens is you actually have an easy life when you do it. The reverse, though, is when you take the shortcuts and you settle for foosball tables and free lunches and you don't care. People don't know that you care in a deeply felt way. Well, those are the easy choices. And then you get wondering why it's so hard to get employees to come in the door and work. So if people get nothing out of it, I hope you borrow a page from Jerzy, because it is such an easy reframe of what's going on. And if you're not getting the results you're looking for, take a look at your choices before you got what you got. And it's not one-to-one. It's not like a perfect, it's just a guide, it's a principle, not a promise. But I have a hunch more times than not, there was some easy choice you made that made this moment hard. And if you want to invert that, you're in a new moment now. Make the hard choice now so you can put yourself in an easier position later.
I love that, dude. It's so, so true. Anybody that's out there that, goes to the gym or sets big goals, they know that the pain is first and then the reward is later. But it's really, and you tell me if you found this as well, Dane, during your career, but it's when you're willing to just roll up your sleeves and just get into that dirt and that nastiness and into that suffering and find peace within that suffering and beauty within it, that everything becomes easier. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, there's no question. If you and I hang out for a day, I'm such a boring dude because my life, I'm a monk. Like my life is super like regulated, but it's not regulated like haphazardly. It's just really intentional. And all of it revolves around this group I started called Men and Women of Discomfort. And we, it's hard choices. It's just, we're building hard choices into our life. And we started with how we start our day. We do it in the middle of our day. It's how we end our day. It's multiple categories. It's not just physicality, but it's mental, it's emotional, it's relational. I track things like the other day I was in the middle of an intermittent fast, which you don't eat for a long period of time. And I was starving, and I went to Chipotle, and they didn't have vegetables for the fifth time in a row. I was so mad. And I just kind of lost it with the employee. And it was so inappropriate. I came back and apologized later. It was like, this poor frontline worker had nothing to do with the situation. And I talked to the manager, and the manager was like, we're short-staffed. And I was just like entitled and a jerk. And that's the truth of who I was in that moment. And then I had a chance to make the hard choice of saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong. Will you forgive me? And I go there all the time now, and I try to buy as many Chipotles as I can. It's my penance. But my point is simply like, it's a reveal, it's a discovery of, oh, there's another opportunity for me to go again and find a space to choose discomfort, to leverage voluntary discomfort as a mechanism to live life, as an operating system for life. The problem I think a lot of people do is they hear what we're saying and they think, oh, I'll do a new exercise program. And it's not like application level, it's like operating system level. Like you need to decide like, what is the immovable rule of your life? That's the thing that you fit the rest of your life into. Even important things like family and jobs. And it's this rule of life is first, put the other stuff in. And if there's enough room, all the good stuff will fit. And the stuff that isn't that good, you'll actually find yourself going like, no room at the end. We don't want that in my life, and I'm going to move it out. Yep. And you do that over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you have a pretty amazing life, even when circumstances aren't going your way. One of my best friends, he died of stomach cancer on January 1st of this year. He and I invented this minute discomfort thing together. I got to tell you, the year that he suffered with stage 4 stomach cancer, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone more alive in that year. And he would say it was 2 reasons. One, number one by miles, was his commitment, his faith commitment. But 2, he would say he was ready. He had prepared for the inevitability of suffering. And not all of us suffer that way. A lot of us suffer in different ways, but we all suffer. And the question is, with the knowledge that that is coming, what are we going to do about it? Yeah. How are we going to get ready? And it turns out the suffering isn't all that bad when you anticipate it. Even death might not even be all that bad if you anticipate it. But people are so committed to comfort and hiding from the truth and the reality of what our world is giving us that they don't set themselves up to win. And whether it's in business or in our personal lives, there's gold in these hills if we're willing to be as awake as we can possibly do it and keep trying to get more awake and then move in that direction of leveraging discomfort to find meaning.
Absolutely. Do when you say awake, what are you like hinting at? What are you trying to kind of open up in our listeners' minds?
Yeah. So I was in a job once a number of years ago, and I remember I had a supervisor who said, you're not very self-aware. And I was so offended because I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not self-aware. I've been to therapy and I've done this and I've done that. And what she was giving me was an invitation to become more self-aware. She wasn't saying I wasn't aware. She was just saying, look, you got some headroom here in a particular category. And if you want, take a look at it. If you don't worry about it. You're fired. But the point is, there's this amazing Indian priest who died in the late 80s named Anthony DeMello. And he would say things like, most people, they're born asleep, they grow up asleep, they get married in their sleep, they have babies in their sleep, and they die asleep. They're never awake. And what he invites people to do is like, wake up. And when I say that, it's not like people don't have some sense of awareness of self and others, but there's so much more that we don't know about ourselves and we don't know about others until we start getting curious and moving in that direction. We'll never plumb the depths. There's too much to learn. But this work that we're describing, even owning a company and caring about individuals and realizing, wow, I have a skill set that gets me to this point, but it's not going to get me to here. How do I get curious about my gaps and the opportunities there to go where I need to go? How do I put myself in a position to grow? Well, to do that, you need to kind of move beyond yourself into some really uncomfortable waters. But when you do, you really give yourself a shot at that growth. So our mantra at Men and Women Discomfort is to become strong and awake for love's sake, leveraging discomfort to become strong and awake for love's sake. Something bigger than us, love's sake. Strong, meaning not powerful. We might not be in a position of power, but we can be strong even in the midst of hard things. And awake is conscious of self, conscious of others, and conscious of our impact on these efforts to build our world around a more loving contribution.
I love that, dude. There's just so many good things in that for sure. Little devil's advocate here. So
Yeah,
how do I know if I'm asleep or I'm awake, Dane? How would I know if I totally missing it? Because I think everything's normal. I mean, it looks good. I watch TV. I listen to what everybody tells me and I do that stuff and keep up with the Kardashians. Like everything's good. Like, how do I know if I'm awake or if I'm not awake?
Yeah. So that feeling in the middle of a workout when you're not sure you're going to live. Like I had one of those this morning and I was like, it was just like, I'm being dramatic when I say that. You're going to be fine. But you're just like, you're really out of breath. Your heart is pounding. Or let's say you're in another context, like there's a conversation with your spouse or partner or friend that you're like, I need to have that. And you kind of want to barf. You're like, it's uncomfortable. Or you're in a building and the alarm goes off and you're tempted to run away from the alarm when you know that people are hurting near the alarm and the call is to run towards the thing and you're scared. If you're experiencing any of those things, you're awake. If you're not experiencing any of those things, you're numb. You're asleep and you don't know it. And this is the rub of our cultural moment. There's a book I happen to have handy because it's part of I'm writing a book right now and this is some of my research, but this guy named Michael Easter wrote the book called The Comfort Crisis. And he talks very specifically about this dilemma we're in, that we are not going to have a wild life. We're not going to have a happy and healthy self if we are committed to comfort, because comfort, what it'll do is it'll plug us into a pleasure machine.
Yep. And
that ultimately will lead to despair. And what we're craving is to make meaning in our lives. But it's very difficult to, if not impossible, to make meaning in a world where you're at the right temperature all day long. No muscle has to contract. You only hang around with people who think the same things you do. You're not willing to confess when you miss it with somebody. Those are all indicators that you're asleep. And if you're kind of, to the degree you can bear it, one thing, let me just say this quick qualifier. There are plenty of people who are they're in involuntary discomfort. They're not involuntary discomfort. Voluntary discomfort is a privileged position. Involuntary discomfort is you found out you have cancer, somebody is victimizing you. I'm not talking, like, we're not supposed to make light of those things at all. Like, I'm just saying, when you're in a position where you have the opportunity to do the hard thing, you will wake up. You'll become sober. You'll experience a ruggedness to the world that we actually live in, and you'll leave the fabricated world of the perfect, 71 degree or 68.5 degree temperature room to a more real room, to a room the way the world actually is. And that's where humans were meant to live. But we're up against it because our economy is now tied to comfort. Everything is, quick and easy and short and painless and 7-minute abs. And, just buy this product and you're going to experience the dream life. And it doesn't work that way. And the invite, and I think there's a growing group of people who are realizing there's a backlash to comfort. I'm part of the backlash. I think you are too. And I think the folks who are pushing back against that in measured ways have huge opportunities, unfair advantages in our world, because you now have a capacity to navigate life when your colleagues in competition, they kind of fall over when it gets hard.
Yep.
So
it's building those muscles, man. And I love it. It's true. And, there's, like you said, when you feel your heart's going to blow out of your chest as you're pushing as hard as you can, that sounds like my run every morning. I don't run for a long time, but I run as hard as I possibly can up and down hills. And, there's at times that I'm like, you don't have to do this, right? The old saboteur kicks up. You don't have to do this. There's not one time, Dane, that I get to that shower, which is 55 degrees every morning. And I go in it cold and I get out of it cold. And I'm like, I turn that thing and I put my feet and my hands in for 5 seconds before I jump into it. And there's not one day that I don't realize that I'm doing this by choice. right? And there's not one day I don't look at that thing and said, all I got to do is turn the knob. I could turn the knob, make that thing beautifully warm and get in there. I said, but you know what? I will not take myself serious all day. It will not work. I must do the hard things that I don't want to do in order to get the things that I want in life. That's just what it is. That is my sacrifice, if you will. It has to happen. And I have never once turned it warm. And it's been doing it for years now. Like I'm like never once turned it warm. And what I'm upset about when we travel and we go to a place like Florida and they have city water there and it only gets to like 60. I get like, that's not a cold shower. I'm like, that's like, it's not even worth it at that point. But you're absolutely right.
Well, that's a great test for your listeners. Like if folks are at home and they're like, I wonder if I am asleep or awake. I wonder what it is. Here's a fun invitation. Here's a fun
cold shower, baby.
go take a cold shower for 30 seconds and you will know what awake is.
Yes.
And it's so you will not die.
Yep.
You will be totally fine. And we can even, Joshua and I can give you from experience, like what happened is you'll get in, water will hit your head. If you have hair, that'll protect you for about a second and a half. And then the water gets through your hair, onto your head, onto your cold of your neck, and you're onto your back. And you're going to start breathing heavy for a second. And you only have one job, slow your breathing.
Yep.
And what you'll find is by about 27 seconds, you're going to start going like, I'm not comfortable. I'm awake and I'm not dead.
Yes, that's exactly it. I didn't die.
What is going on? And I like, honestly, it's a metaphor. Like it's the same thing, a conflict at work, someone you offended in your family, an opportunity to go again, and when that happens and you wake up to it and you take advantage of it, oh my gosh, it's so much life there.
So much.
But I also respect why people don't do it. It's hard. It's just hard. And it's not something that someone's going to convince you to. Even hearing these words, there's someone who's listening to this right now and just hearing the words is making them uncomfortable in precisely the way that a cold shower would. And if that's you, good for you because you're getting it. Keep going.
And for you out there that are listening to this and you're like, you know what? I love challenges. Here's your challenge. Outer Spaces challenge number 1. Right after you're done listening to this podcast or you finish up work or you wake up and you're going to work, whatever, wherever you're at right now. Go in, turn that shower as cold as it possibly gets. Let it run for a little bit. Don't let any of that freaking warm water come through first. You let that thing get as cold as it can be. You strip down, you get in there, and you bear through it. At least do 30 seconds. If you can go a minute, go a minute. Yeah. And just as Dane says, that's what alive feels. When you get out and towel off, man, you are lit. You can't not be lit doing that, but you got to go in freezing cold and get out freezing cold. None of this half-ass stuff. So I'm challenging you, Outer Space listeners, go do this because I'm telling you, it will change your life. You'll do it once and hate it. You'll do it 1,000 times and still hate it. But man, when you get used to that energy that comes from it and that aliveness that comes from it, there's nothing better. I don't drink caffeine. I don't do sugar. I don't do any of that stuff. And I am jacked constantly because of my rituals, the running and the cold showers and the stuff and the breathing, Wim Hof breathing and things like that just gets the body going. You don't need chemicals for that. This stuff is already built into you, but you've got to do the uncomfortable stuff in order to get to those goodies. They don't just show up on a plate and you can just eat them and they taste good. That's comfort. We don't want that. You've got to work your ass to get there and do the hard thing. So the challenge is on. I can't wait for the first person to send me a DM and said, I just did it. I did 30 seconds or a minute or be a baller and go 2 minutes in there and then shoot me a DM, somehow connect with me and tell me how you thought about it. What you thought how you feel after it.
So good, man. I love what you said too. Like, it's not a have to, it's a get to. I think that's what begins to happen. And I get why we sound like freaks to some people. I get that. But I promise being a freak is underrated. It's a gift. Because you don't enter into life like I have to do all these things. I don't have to work out. I get to work out. I don't have to get into a cold shower. I get to get into a cold shower. Yes. And I don't have to have employees that love their job. I get to do the work to have my employees love their job. And when you kind of approach life like that, man, it all of a sudden, the whole thing, your perspective shifts and you will literally see more of reality. Yes. And that's the part that I wish for more people And I think that's what you're daring people into. I love you.
Dude, exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. You know, when you look at a really tough situation, you have to make a phone call. You've got to make a choice for your business. You know, you have to do something that is really bothering you. And you sit back and say, you know what? I don't have to do this. I get to do this. It's a privilege. When you start thinking of it, to Dane's point, I mean, he is spot on with that. That changed my life when I started thinking that I get to do this. I don't have to do it. And all of a sudden it becomes manageable. You think from a completely different perspective and you're like, holy crap, I get to do this. I get to run. I get to do cold showers. I get to do the things that even I don't enjoy. I get to do them. They're privileges. You start spinning that around in your head. Try that, guys. Try that sometime. Then you have something coming up, a big decision. Just rewire in your head quickly and say, I don't have to. I get to do that. And it'll change it all. Then maybe not the first time, but once you do that a bunch of times, it changes the entire field.
It's funny. About 3.5 years ago, I tore my Achilles in a very unmanly game of pickleball, and in the process of, I had about a year recovery, and I remember resisting like going for a run or whatever up until I tore my Achilles, and then that entire year, it's just such a cliche, I would have given my left arm to go for a run. I was so like watching my leg atrophy, realizing all the PT I had to go through, all the stuff. And I was just like, somewhere in the middle of PT, I was like, I'm never going back here again. I'm drawing a line. Because when it's involuntarily taken and you can't, I promise you, that's when you realize it really was a get to. It really was. But opportunities pass too. And there's windows of time for people when they hear these invitations. And I'd encourage folks, if you know this one's for you, act on it. You'll be glad you did.
I love that, Dane. So Dane, here we're getting close to wrapping up. Do you have maybe 3 little jewels or 3 little tips you can give people that are looking to find, A+ players for their team? We talked about a lot of different things, but is there anything you can drop on these guys quick to kind of down and dirty what they might be looking for, or how to do it, how to attract them, something to that effect?
Yeah. So here's what I'm not going to offer, because I don't think they're helpful. I'm not going to offer a shortcut. I'm not going to offer a hack. I'm not going to offer the 7-minute ab version of how to get great talented people.
Good.
Well, there is one answer for that. You pay a lot of money. And if you have a lot of money to spend, you can hire mercenaries to come in and do work for you for a season. They'll leave because they don't have loyalty. They're going to go to the next person who'll pay them more later. But they bring talent and they're skilled, and you can do that without question. If you are willing to pay top dollar, you could get what you want. Now, unless you're independently wealthy, that's a hard game to play. The other 2 options I would suggest are commit to the long term. Decide who you want to be as a company 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if that's too much, 2 years from now, if you're a startup, whatever, you want to be alive, like whatever you're at with your company, just get clear on your identity first. And when you decide up front, we're going to be a place that outcares the competition. We're going to be a place that our employees love going to work. We're going to be a place that people feel known and heard and understood, and they know their contribution. We're going to be a place where there's clarity about what we offer our customers and what we offer our employees to be here. Those are the kinds of identity statements that you want to get clear on. When that's locked in, the second step is to say, well, what would that leader do? What would that leader do today to put ourselves in a position for that to happen? Now, that's not a hack. That's not a tip or a trick, but it is the path that I've seen happen working with hundreds of companies over and over and over again. The companies who lead like that, they get their identity clear first, and then they go, well, what are the building blocks to get to that identity? And they just hit them. And 1 week at a time, 1 quarter at a time, 1 year at a time, you're going to be shocked at how fast it happens. In a very meta way, the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I started reading him back in the mid 2000 teens. He didn't write a book. He just had a blog. He put a newsletter twice a week. And I had him on the podcast last year, and talking to him, dude, in 2021, his book was the #1 book sold in every category in all of Amazon.
Wow.
The number, can you imagine being in that position? Incredible.
It's crazy.
But the reason it's such a meta moment for what I'm describing is, what does he prescribe in that? As a human, if you want to get anywhere in life by building habits, what do? You get clear on your identity, and then you establish minimally viable, tiny steps, the tiniest you can imagine.
Yep.
But just make them the kinds of steps that you never miss a day of.
Yep.
So if you do that with your company, and it's related to, say, talent, we're going to be the most attractive place in the world for people to come to work. And sure, it'll include compensation, but it's going to be including a lot more than that. And you just get really clear on where you're missing it, bring in people to help you get there. I would love to work with companies like that, candidly. But even if all you do, if your minimal viable is you take one employee out a week and you ask them, what do they dream of doing in their life? When you're way beyond this place, what are you doing? And I'm going to help. I'm committed to helping you get there. That alone will get you moving in the right direction.
100%, dude. I appreciate it. Dane, this has been an amazing, podcast so far. I could keep going on for hours talking to you. I love this. Like this is amazing. So, again, thank you for being on. And if somebody wants to reach out and find you, Dane, how do they find you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah. So a couple things on that. One, that's kind of fun. I just set up this website called askdane.com. And it's like a video walkie-talkie site. You go there, you click a button, you just leave a little message, and it's asynchronous, so no meeting is required. I'll respond back personally. I can't wait. It's video, so you know it's me. And that's an easy way to connect. But all the social channels at Dane Sanders, easily found. But if you're running a company and you're interested in this, developing a strategy for individuals, well-being, teams, really high functioning, and having a collective drive, move in the right direction, especially if you're up against like turnover issues or just like a general sense of, I want to get my leadership stronger. Those are conversations that I love to get in. I make my days around those, and that's at tellmeyourdreams.com.
I love that. And guys, I will absolutely vouch for Dane. He's come into our business and made a gigantic impact working with the Story brand and the rest of his skills that he brought along with him those days. But, I'm super happy that our paths crossed and that you were able to, come out and get us rolling with that. I super appreciate that. So,
Joshua, can I say one more thing?
Please.
I really want to state the obvious here, but I don't know if it's stated enough. Thank you for leading the way you lead. Like the fact that you have a podcast like this, that you don't get paid to do. This isn't like you're doing this you're famous to your industry, to the family, for providing value in a kind of way that is amplifying value, where people can listen to this, do something like, if you think of like the economic impact of a generous contribution like this, if you're leading like this, it's so significant. And it'd be easy for listeners to not realize or take it for granted. But I recognize this is no small thing. And this isn't just a one and done kind of thing. You are committed to this in every area of your life. And it's so evident. And if I actually hope that people get more clear on how they can reach you, I think that actually, and if that's all they're doing, then that's great. But man, oh man, I'm so grateful when I come across leaders who lead and don't just talk about leading. And that's what you're doing. And I'm so thankful.
I'm thankful for that, Dane. That was very kind. Thank you for those words. And I know that you also have a podcast and know exactly what it's like. And, Dwayne typically is on here with us and, he was busy today, but anyway, I'm sure he'll get lots of value out of listening then once this wraps up. But anyway, thank you for that. And Dane, it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys, listening, our goal is to impact and empower 2 million people in the next 4.5 years. We're at 5. It's going quick. So if you guys got a lot of value from this podcast, please share it with people that you love, people that you care about, that you see that are struggling, where you think this message could help. You just never know where to land. So I appreciate that. Share it with your friends, your family, colleagues, whatever. We're going to need your help in order to get to those 2 million people. So I appreciate and love all you guys for the continued support. And thank you again, Dane, for sharing your beautiful wisdom today. And I sure got a lot from it. And I know everybody else listening did too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.